For decades, USAID has been seen as a beacon of hope, an organization dedicated to delivering aid and relief across the world. But what if that image is nothing more than a carefully crafted illusion? What if, instead of alleviating suffering, USAID has been fueling one of the largest corruption scandals in U.S. history? Elon Musk once called USAID a criminal organization, a claim that was brushed off as just another of his controversial takes. But now, with the FBI uncovering shocking evidence of financial fraud, bribery, and embezzlement totaling over $100 billion, it seems Musk may have been onto something. How deep does this corruption go? And what does it mean for the future of U.S. foreign aid? The truth is far more disturbing than you can imagine. Elon Musk has never been one to shy away from controversy, but this time, it seems like he may have struck a nerve with one of the most powerful and corrupt institutions in the world. Without providing any proof, Musk once called USAID a criminal organization. And now, new evidence seems to suggest that he may have been onto something. The FBI has uncovered shocking details about USAID officials and their involvement in the theft of over $100 billion in funds. The very agency tasked with providing aid and relief around the world has allegedly been operating as a front for one of the largest corruption scandals in U.S. history. So what exactly did the FBI find? Who are the key players in this massive scandal? And just how deep does the corruption run? Join us as we break down the shocking truth behind USAID's fraudulent activities, the political implications, and what this means for the future of U.S. foreign aid. It all started when Elon Musk made a seemingly outlandish statement about USAID being a corrupt institution. At the time, it was dismissed as another one of his controversial takes. But recent developments suggest that Musk may have known something the rest of the world didn't. The FBI, in a recent operation, uncovered substantial evidence linking USAID officials to a network of financial crimes, including mismanagement of funds, bribery, and outright embezzlement. The total sum, a staggering $100 billion. For decades, USAID has presented itself as a humanitarian organization dedicated to global relief efforts. Yet a deeper dive into their financial records tells a very different story. Instead of channeling funds to war-torn and disaster-stricken areas, a massive portion of these funds have allegedly been diverted into private accounts, offshore firms, and shady contracting deals. This isn't the first time USAID has been embroiled in controversy. The agency has long been accused of failing to provide adequate assistance where it's needed most. Take Haiti, for example. In 2010, a devastating earthquake rocked the island, killing over 300,000 people. The U.S. government, through USAID, pledged approximately $4.4 billion in foreign assistance. Of that amount, $1.5 billion was meant for immediate humanitarian relief, while another $3 billion was allocated for long-term recovery and development. But what actually happened with those funds? Investigations have revealed that less than 2% of that money went to Haitian organizations or firms. Instead, a whopping $1.3 billion was funneled to firms located in and around Washington, D.C. While Haitians struggled to rebuild their homes and lives, American contractors pocketed a significant portion of the aid money, leaving the country in ruins. And it's not just USAID. Other organizations, including the Red Cross, have been caught in similar scandals. Despite raising $500 million for Haitian relief efforts, the Red Cross only managed to build 6 verifiable homes. The rest of the money? Its whereabouts remain a mystery. Fast forward to today, and the FBI has finally begun to crack down on USAID's corruption. Agents have uncovered evidence that implicates several high-ranking officials in a massive fraud scheme that spans decades. The investigation revealed how funds meant for foreign aid were rerouted into private accounts, with some officials mysteriously accumulating tens of millions of dollars while working on government salaries. One of the most high-profile figures named in the investigation is former USAID Administrator Samantha Power. Online rumors claim her net worth skyrocketed from $7 million in 2021 to over $30 million by 2025. Musk himself has fueled these claims, reposting them on X and demanding an investigation. While no solid evidence has yet been presented to confirm these figures, the controversy has only added fuel to the fire. Former President Donald Trump has also weighed in on the matter, calling USAID one of the most fraudulent institutions in the U.S. government. His administration had previously attempted to dismantle USAID, citing its history of financial mismanagement and inefficiency. Now, with these new allegations surfacing, Trump and his allies are pushing for a complete overhaul of the agency. Meanwhile, Elon Musk continues to use his platform to expose USAID's corruption, calling for immediate accountability and transparency. His accusations, combined with the FBI's findings, have put USAID under immense pressure, raising questions about whether the agency will be shut down or restructured under a different governmental body. The USAID scandal is just a symptom of a much larger issue, the deeply flawed nature of foreign aid itself. Researchers have pointed out that USAID and its partners operate under a system where funds pass through multiple layers of subcontractors before reaching the intended beneficiaries. At each step, a portion of the money is siphoned off for administrative fees, oversight costs, and vaguely defined program expenses. By the time the funds actually reach the ground, only a fraction remains to make any real impact. This model of aid distribution has allowed corruption to flourish unchecked. The lack of financial transparency makes it nearly impossible to track how billions of taxpayer dollars are spent, allowing for widespread fraud and mismanagement. With the FBI now actively investigating USAID officials, the future of the agency hangs in the balance. The scandal has sparked renewed calls for reform, with some politicians advocating for stricter oversight and financial accountability. Others, like Musk and Trump, believe USAID should be shut down entirely. When most Americans think of USAID, they picture sacks of rice and grain emblazoned with the American flag, symbols of goodwill sent to disaster-stricken areas. But what if that image was nothing more than a carefully crafted smokescreen? What if, instead of providing aid, USAID was actually fueling corruption, regime change, and massive fraud on a scale never before imagined? In a stunning turn of events, FBI agents have arrested several USAID officials after explosive new evidence revealed the theft of over $100 billion in taxpayer dollars. What was once dismissed as speculation is now a full-blown scandal, shaking the very foundations of the agency and exposing the dark underbelly of America's foreign aid programs. This is the story of how USAID became one of the most corrupt and covertly powerful organizations in the U.S. government, and why its days may finally be numbered. For decades, USAID has positioned itself as a beacon of hope, delivering humanitarian relief, development aid, and economic assistance to struggling nations. But behind the noble rhetoric lies a deeply embedded system of manipulation, one that has turned USAID into an instrument of regime change and covert influence. Ron Paul has long warned that USAID is a key player in America's foreign meddling operations. Billions are funneled annually to so-called NGOs, non-governmental organizations, that function as shadow governments working to undermine elected leaders who refuse to bend to Washington's will. Ukraine offers the most damning evidence of USAID's influence. When Donald Trump temporarily froze USAID's funding, during his first term, the reaction was immediate. Ukrainian media outlets, which had long pushed pro-U.S. narratives, suddenly found themselves in crisis. The reason? A jaw-dropping 90% of Ukraine's media is funded by USAID. This raises a chilling question. How much of what Americans believe about foreign conflicts is actually U.S. propaganda, recycled through so-called independent media overseas, and then parroted by mainstream outlets at home? The truth is that USAID funds foreign media. Those outlets publish U.S.-friendly stories, and American media then reports them as fact. This false narrative is fed back into Washington, shaping foreign policy based on manufactured realities. It's a propaganda loop designed to deceive not only the American public, but also the very policymakers who rely on it to make critical decisions. The corruption doesn't stop there. Recent investigations have uncovered a disturbing financial web linking USAID to fraudulent programs, wasteful spending, and even biological research that may have contributed to global pandemics. Elon Musk recently drew attention to a shocking New York Post report revealing that USAID funneled $53 million to EcoHealth Alliance, the same organization linked to gain-of-function research on coronaviruses at the Wuhan lab. The same agency that claims to promote democracy and humanitarian aid was quietly financing research that could have played a role in the outbreak of COVID-19. If this is true, then USAID may have been complicit in one of the greatest global crises of modern history. With the FBI's latest arrests, the tide is turning against USAID. Under Trump's second administration, sweeping reforms have been enacted to root out waste and fraud in government spending. The crackdown on USAID has been one of the most aggressive, with Musk calling the agency a criminal organization and advocating for its complete shutdown. In January 2025, the administration ordered a near-total freeze on foreign aid, a move that sent shockwaves through the international community. Over 1,000 USAID employees and contractors were fired or furloughed, and legal battles erupted over the agency's future. The Trump administration's plan to slash USAID's workforce from over 10,000 employees to just 290 led to a fierce showdown in the courts, with federal judges intervening to temporarily halt the reductions. As USAID's official website was shut down and its leadership dismantled, even some conservatives began questioning the wisdom of such a drastic move. Former USAID Administrator Andrew Natsios, a Republican who served under the Bush administration, warned that the individuals leading the charge to dismantle USAID had no understanding of international development. He criticized Musk's involvement, suggesting that a billionaire tech entrepreneur with no background in global aid was ill-equipped to oversee such a critical transformation. The battle over USAID's future has now reached the courts. In February 2025, the American Foreign Service Association and the American Federation of Government Employees filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration, arguing that the sudden shutdown of USAID violated constitutional principles, including the separation of powers and the Take Care Clause. In a dramatic court ruling, Judge Carl Nichols, ironically appointed by Trump in 2019, issued a temporary restraining order, halting the mass firings and forcing the administration to justify its actions. However, in a later decision, Nichols ruled that the administration could proceed with recalling thousands of USAID employees from abroad, giving them just 30 days to return to the U.S. Amid the legal and political chaos, the real-world impact of USAID's dismantling has been devastating. Humanitarian programs in war-torn regions, HIV/AIDS treatment initiatives, and disaster relief efforts have all ground to a halt. Over 30 clinical trials for diseases like malaria, tuberculosis, and cervical cancer have been suspended, leaving patients in limbo. Critics argue that the abrupt freeze on foreign aid is jeopardizing global stability and putting millions of lives at risk. Even the American Farm Bureau Federation, a traditionally conservative organization, has warned that shutting down USAID could have disastrous consequences for global food security. But will this scandal finally lead to real change, or will it be swept under the rug like so many others before it? That remains to be seen. One thing is certain, this story is far from over. The coming weeks and months will likely reveal even more shocking details about the extent of USAID's corruption. And as the FBI digs deeper, more heads may roll. At the end of the day, the USAID scandal is a glaring example of how institutions designed to help people can be twisted into tools for greed and exploitation. The fact that billions of dollars meant for humanitarian efforts have allegedly been stolen is not just an embarrassment, it's a crime against humanity. Elon Musk and Donald Trump, despite their differences, seem to agree on one thing. USAID is not what it claims to be. And with the FBI now uncovering decades of corruption, it's becoming harder to ignore the truth. The question remains, will those responsible be held accountable, or will this be yet another case of the powerful escaping justice? Only time will tell, but one thing is clear: the American people are watching.